All right, working Louie again. Once again, it's kind of late at night because just have some really busy days right now. But anyway, excited to get another session on this guy. Hey, buddy. What is that about, huh? I think he's mad that I took him away from his food to come in here and work a little bit. But anyway, he's continuing to do really good. The reason I wanted to video today, well, I'm just trying to video more with him anyway, but so the last couple horses that I started, I did something I've never really done before, and that's I just kind of started jumping on them bareback just as part of the desensitizing. It's kind of almost by accident. I was just kind of jumping up and down next to some colts and, just leaning over on their back, like I do with all the horses, laying over the top of them. I started swinging a leg over just a little bit. And normally that's kind of all I do. And then I thought, man, why don't I just go ahead and swing a leg over and sit on them? So I did that. And this is over the course of a couple days. This is not in one session. But, I do a little bit more each session. And I just didn't get in a rush about it or have any anxiety about it. I'm wearing my tennis shoes. If I fall off, I'm in deep sand. I'm not wearing boots and spurs. And I really just kind of, by the time I was sitting on their back, they didn't even really think of it as riding. There's all this mental stigma about, first rides and they're going to buck and all this stuff. And I never even got to that because I was just, one minute I'm jumping up and down next to them, next minute I'm laying on their back, next minute, or probably next day, but pretty soon I'm sitting on their back. And then every time I would slide off, I'd do lateral flexion. So it wasn't a very big jump to be sitting on their back and do lateral flexion from their back. Okay. And then from there, it wasn't a very big jump to be, because every time I would jump off, I'd not only do lateral flexion, but I'd also disengage the hind end. Okay. Well, then it's not a very big jump to be sitting on his back, do lateral flexion and disengage the hind end. And so all of a sudden I'm sitting on them bareback and they're moving their feet and they're super, super calm because I've done this over the number of days. And pretty quick, I just asked them to walk off forward and they walked off great. And so I'm torn about doing that with Louie here. Didn't like that too much. I actually did jump on him bareback this is about a week or two ago. It was a while back, probably a week ago. So I haven't had him that long. And he actually got a little scared and just sidestepped a little, and it wasn't much. Honestly, I should have stayed on him, but I just slid off to the side because I wasn't sure what he was going to do. I kind of landed on my back and, whatever. It's soft sand. It wasn't a big deal. But, and then I got right back on him because, if you come off, the first thing you got to do is get right back on. So it wasn't bad training for him or anything. I think he was more surprised that I fell off than I was. And I've done that a couple of times. And then, of course, Anna went ahead and got in the saddle and rode him yesterday. So anyway, my dilemma, and, I try to be as transparent with these videos as I possibly can be. I'm going to go ahead and start doing some groundwork with him while I keep talking here, just so I don't waste time. I try to be real transparent with these videos. I don't want to come into these videos and tell you guys, I've got all the answers. I've got all the experience in the world. I know 100% of what there is to know about horses. Listen to my method and do only my method and you're going to be good. That's not what I believe at all. I'm very much a beginner at this, and I think I've learned from some pretty good people, and I've got a pretty good method, probably better than a lot. Hang on, let me grab the pitchfork and the muck bucket from outside because he's already pooped. Never seen a horse poop as much as this guy. But I'll keep talking. Hang on a second. All right, anyway, like I was saying, I try to be very transparent with these videos. And so if I'm kind of thinking about something like trying to make a decision, about where to go with the horse's training, I want to be very transparent about that and say, hey, I don't know necessarily what the right answer is here. I'm just going to test out some different things and think through it and try to apply the principles and figure out, see what works. And so my dilemma with him has been, should I go ahead and do it like I did the last few colts and jump on him bareback? Or should I put on the saddle and can start riding him in the saddle? And my dilemma is because I'd rather do the bareback version. I think that is just a more easing into it way. It's there's so much more connection with the horse when you're bareback because you feel everything they're doing and they feel all of your balance. And I just really feel like it keeps their thinking on the rider, whereas the saddle kind of insulates you in there. I feel like it kind of puts some distance between you and the horse. Now he just walked off on his own, so I'm just going to send him the opposite direction. And he does that pretty willingly, not too much offendedness right there, so that's pretty good. Ask him to stop, just let him stand. So all that was unnecessary, right? The problem with jumping on him bareback is he's a much more nervous horse. Yeah, he's not nervous in the sense like he's not prancing around right now, right? But he has a little bit of tension. See him snorting there, and he just has some obstinance like this. He just decides to go walking off on his own, right? And then see how he goes, I'm mad, get all mad about that. Problem is, if I'm on his back, bareback, and he decides to get mad about it, there's not much I can do bareback because I'm not that great of a bareback rider. Whereas if I'm in the saddle, I can kind of discipline him and control the situation a little bit better. However, I want to build connection with him and have him be nice and calm and everything, and I think bareback is the way to do that. So I'm kind of weighing my options, and I want to kind of see where he's at tonight, and I'm definitely going to do some jumping next to him, some laying across his back, maybe throwing a leg over, kind of see where it goes, and I'm going to go ahead and send him here. Go. Like I said, it's late at night. He just got fed about an hour ago, and I'm just now getting to work with him, so I had to take him away from his food, so he's a little PO'd about that. But it's good to work in different scenarios because you might need to take him away from his food at some point and go ride him. Definitely not out of the realm of possibility. That's a little bit better. So he's looking around a lot here. There his focus came back to center. Good. I want to wait for her looking at you here. And I feel like the bareback thing, and the reason I really like that is if I'm sitting on a horse bareback, I really have to trust the horse, right? If you're sitting in the saddle, you can kind of be like, well, I don't know, this might go south, but it's okay because I'll probably be able to ride it, right? And there's a time and place for that. But I feel like for me to trust the horse and put the horse in as good a position as possible, that bareback thing really is the best. And I guess I'm answering my own question because if I don't feel like he's creeping up in my space here, so I'm just going to go ahead and send him. Oh, went the wrong way. There you go. If I don't feel safe and confident getting on him bareback, then I really shouldn't be getting on him in the saddle. So I guess I'm answering my own question, which is why I love videoing this stuff and talking through it. Almost like you guys get to be good. So he thought about going the wrong way and then came back to the right way. There's a lick and a chew. Good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do some lateral flexion. Oh, that was pretty soft, although his eye is very stuck to the outside. There we go. Brought his eye over here a little bit. There you go. Good boy. He's also pretty wet because it rained earlier. So when I start laying across his back, I'm going to get pretty wet. But that's all right. I don't mind. One of the hazards of the job. Good boy. That's really good lateral flexion. Very nice. Let's see how this side is. He has been noticeably worse on his right side than his left side, all through training. That was really good. Good boy. I think the last couple days of work with him have been really, really good because he's noticeably better every day. I just don't quite have the trust built up with him yet that I'd like because it's only been 2.5 weeks, I think, and of having him at all, and really about a week and a half, 2 weeks of that were pretty bad, and so I just don't have a lot of trust built up in him yet. Good boy. There you go. And that's where I want to see him. See, if he'd stay in that state the whole time, I'd have no problem getting on his back. Nice, soft, lateral flexion, but watch what's going to happen right here. He's going to spin himself up, get distracted by something. He's probably going to look over at the door by the camera. He might prove me wrong. That was a nice big blink. So let's just make a bet here. Who thinks he's going to get distracted and look off, or who thinks he's going to stay focused and lick and chew right here? And I'm not going to take sides. I already said he's going to get distracted. But now I see he's twitching that muzzle a lot, so he could just lick and chew right here. It'll be interesting to see. Nope, he got distracted first. But he brought his attention back to center, but he also brought that head way up, right? So that's all still safe, right? I'm not too worried about any of that. It's not the same as just licking and chewing, right? But at least it's still pretty safe and everything. Some big blinks. But you can see how he's a lot more worried right now than he was when I just finished that lateral flexion. When I'm sitting on his back, one of the things I'm going to do is, I'll probably do something like disengage the hind end or walk or trot lope, whatever I'm going to do. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to wait for him to lick and chew, because in between every interaction, I want to let him lick and chew. But you see right here, he doesn't know how to go from moderately calm to fully relaxed. He goes from moderately calm to moderately anxious and a little bit alert and snorting and looking. Where are the other horses? And oh my gosh, right? Now he's starting to feel the need to go somewhere. He's like, I don't feel comfortable where I am. Maybe I need to go somewhere else. So until he actually goes somewhere else, I'm not going to do anything to fix that. You can see how unbalanced he is. He's kind of watching me out of this left eye. Remember, we talked about he's not very good on his right side. So his right eye, he's guarding, and he's watching me out of his left eye. So his right eye, he's like, I'm going to watch for predators all over there. And his left eye, he's keeping on me. So he's not present. He's still thinking about all the other things out there. And you can see he's leaning way over in his right foot, and he's just totally off balance right now. So I'm just going to wait. And that's a really good sign right there. So that little move he just did where let's see if he walks up here. So now he's actually leaving with his feet. So I'm going to go ahead and send him. And I'm going to say that's not really an okay coping mechanism. The first thing he did where he rubbed his nose on his forearm, that's a really good thing to see. I've talked about it some before, but if you're not familiar with it, I love how low his head is here. If you're not familiar with what that move is, they call it a stress indicator, but it's a really bad term in my opinion. It really is showing that it's communicating that he doesn't want to fight. He's like, hey, I know there's some tension in the air, and I don't want to fight about it. So he's trying to lower the temperature. And if you think about it, that's a really great thing in a lot of different respects, because first off, it tells me that he values my ability to read his body language, because otherwise he wouldn't talk, right? If you're hanging out with someone who doesn't speak English, you're not just going to keep talking English to them because they don't speak it. Why would you? It's pointless. So if he doesn't trust me to read his body language, he's not going to do that move right there. there's no other horses in here, right, for him to be talking to. So he's using body language to communicate with me that, hey, I don't want to fight. Let's lower the temperature. So it's great in the sense that he's willing to communicate. Now, you don't share your feelings with people who you don't trust, right? People who aren't your friends. You share your feelings with your friends. So it tells me that I'm entering into kind of a friend zone with him, that I'm, he trusts me to share his emotions with. And it also just, obviously, I don't want to fight with him either. So, and he has such a kind of study tendency, and he kind of wants to fight sometimes, like, yeah, I don't want to do that. For him to actually do that and say, let's not fight, is kind of a huge improvement. I think that's the first time I've ever seen him do that around me. So that's really cool. All right, I'm just going to wait for looking at you here again. He's kind of looking all around. He comes back to center, but then looks around, and then comes back to center and looks around. He's putting me back in that left eye, just like we talked about earlier. He's looking around. I think his feet might follow his thoughts here, but maybe not. See what a weird position. Like, that's just a weird body position. Like, if you saw a horse just standing out in the field like that, you'd be like, what are you doing? And that's like classic unstable state. And I've talked about that before. The unstable state is when their feet aren't moving, they're stationary, and they're able to focus on you. Maybe not 100% of the time, but they at least focus on you. Like right there, he came back to me, right? So their feet are stationary, they're able to focus on you at least some of the time, but they're not truly relaxed. That's the unstable state. And that's a really good example of it, where he's so unbalanced, he's unstable, right? He's going to physically stabilize himself just like he's going to mentally stabilize himself at some point. Or he's going to go ahead and give into it. Just like with the leaning, he might lean so far that he walks over there. You can't lean only so far, right, until you either fall over or move your feet underneath you. I don't think he's going to fall over. So if he keeps leaning, eventually his feet are going to move, and then I would put him back to work, because that's not the right coping mechanism. But and if he doesn't move his feet, eventually he's going to have to stabilize himself. And same with his mind. His mind is super off balance. He doesn't quite know what to make of this, and he's going to have to balance up his brain, which will have him relax, or he's going to have to act on that imbalance and go somewhere. So he's unbalanced here. He's either going to act on it or balance himself back up. Same thing. And I don't want to interrupt any of this if I can, because, okay, his feet follow his thoughts, and I'm just going to send him. I'm not punishing him for that. I'm just saying that, hey, walking away and choosing that coping mechanism isn't the answer. That results in more work. Good. Now, if I was on his back, I know I'm not quite there yet, ready to get on, and mentally he's not quite ready for me to get on. But look at how nice this trot is. It's very here and present. He's not flying around. He's not flying into a lope. He's not pulling real hard against the lead rope. His head's a little in the air. But this would be a safe gait. So everything he's doing right now would be safe for me to be on his back, right? I need to see multiple sessions like that in a row where he doesn't do anything unsafe before I'm really ready to get on his back. I like that he's willing to trot through pooping right there, because that shows that he's willing to listen to what I tell him, because he doesn't normally want to move while he's pooping. They usually don't want to, but you should make them go ahead, and if they're going to poop, they got to keep doing whatever you're asking. And I like that he's listening to that. I like that he's wanting to die to that walk. That means that he's he's relaxed and he's not got a lot of anxious energy built up, but he's he's trotting as much as I ask him to. Good. Just gonna leave him there. If he follows me, it's all right. But I'm gonna grab the fork and muck this up real quick. And I'll go ahead and close this gate so he doesn't just leave the arena. So, you know, preferably for me, and this is kind of personal preference, but I do think there's some reason behind it. For me, I would like him to stand there and stay. See, he's snorting over there. And it's not about staying put so much, but it's about not feeling a need to go anywhere unless I ask him to go there. But he came over to this gate because he's very destination addicted to the gate. And because I was coming over here. And so, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. It's just something I've noticed. And it kind of tells me where his brain's at. That given the chance, he's going to bug out and go home. And so, you know, if I'm 10 miles away on a trail ride or 100 yards away on a trail ride, and he kind of gets nervous and spooked about something and maybe he jumps, but in the back of his mind, he really wants to be all the way at home. Him walking home right there tells me, I'll talk about that little interaction in a second. That tells me that if that happens on a trail ride, that he could likely just bolt home, and that's not going to be safe. So anyway, right there, he was creeping backwards like that because he wants to go where? Home, back to the gate. Almost every problem you're ever going to have with a horse has to do with destination addiction. Not every single one, but a very, very large number of them. So he's creeping backwards because he wants to go to the gate. So what did I do? I did the opposite. I pick up on the lead rope and say, hey, don't creep backwards. Let's move forward a few steps. And he braced up against it, and he kind of walked forward, but he walked forward all braced, right? So I kept asking, and then he kind of like shifted out to the side, like, I don't really want to come forward. I'm going to do this, right? So I kept asking him to go forward until he walked straight forward, nice and soft, and then I released. Just like that right there. That was a beautiful walk forward. It was nice and straight, not popped out to the side, not braced up in his neck. That was great. All right. Those little tiny interactions right there are so critical to your relationship with your horse. It doesn't seem like much, but it's so critical to get him balanced. If he takes a step towards me, you need to do something. You either need to back him up, you need to send him one way or the other. If he takes a step backwards, you need to pull him forward. Now, yes, there's a point where you can get overly into the weeds on this, but most people are way too much to the lenient side, and their horse is walking all over them and walking around them and climbing on top of them and doing whatever it wants and focused anywhere it wants. And most people need to be a lot more intentional about this stuff. All right, I like where he's at right here. Instead of sending him to work, since he's standing so nice, I'm just going to take advantage of him standing nice to say, hey, you can keep standing there. You don't have to go anywhere. This is going to be the easiest part of the session for him because other than me laying on top of him, he doesn't have to go anywhere. Now, he may go a lot of places, right? He may run around really fast, but he seems like he's in a mental state right now where he wants to just stand still. And so I'm going to capitalize on that and see if he will. So I'm going to start out just jumping here. Good. He doesn't seem to care about that. Good boy. Excellent. Might end that with a little bit of lateral flexion, which he does great. I might ask his hind end to step around just a little bit. Oh, he's a little stuck there. So if I got on his back, I would have to kick pretty hard to get that hind end to disengage, right? Good. Good. See, I'm doing lateral flexion each time, not so much, like there is a part of it to keep him relaxed and everything, but he's already relaxed. I'm doing the lateral flexion so that he associates, hey, every time this crazy guy jumps around and does whatever he's going to do back here, we end with some lateral flexion. So eventually I'm going to be sitting on his back and we're going to end with lateral flexion, and it won't be any big deal for him. A lot of times people sit on their back and they don't realize that the horse is completely blocking them out, going, la, 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 this isn't happening, this isn't happening. And you're sitting on their back and you reach around and get them into lateral flexion, and they have to actually acknowledge, holy crap, this guy's sitting on my back. And that's when they blow up. Obviously, he is very aware of me right here, right? Because I just barely touched this lead rope. There. And he comes all the way in. Hi. Yeah. See, he's very aware of me here. So it's not going to be that different for him when I'm sitting on his back. Oh, yeah. He's tall. Good. Good boy. Good. And I'm just kind of petting him all over because that's what I'm going to do once I'm sitting on him too. I hate it when people slap their horse really hard. Like you see at the end of the show, the guy's like super excited. I just won the world, whatever. And he reaches down and goes, bam, bam, slaps his horse. I hate it when they do that. But at the same time, I do a lot of just petting like this, just kind of tapping all over. It can be like a, hey, you did a good job. Or it could just be kind of a desensitizing thing. But I just want him basically so bored with this process that when I do finally get on his back, he's just like, come on, let's do something. Oh, yeah. Good boy. Just rubbing him all over. And I kind of waller around up here. Again, I really just want him so bored with this stuff. He's like, what's that crazy guy doing on my back now? Roping a calf? Okay, fine. Just do whatever you're going to do up there. Good boy. It's that, he's a little bit up there maybe. I might just loosen up that neck a little bit. Might do some offside lateral flexion here. It's that whole, oh, this is something I need to work on then. Oh, this is definitely something I need to work on. Definitely. So think about if I was sitting on his back and I did lateral flexion on the side he wasn't quite ready for, that wouldn't go so well. So he thinks he's supposed to flex this way. He's like, any pressure on my face, I just know what it means. It means flex to the right, or flex to the left. There you go, dude. And he can't imagine softening to the right. There you go. Good. So that is one thing for those of you watching. Always do offside lateral flexion as well as onside lateral flexion before you start getting on. That looks like a little bit of a hole I left right there. So he was flexing this side great, but did you notice that last time I got off right there and his head was super straight up in the air? But he's still flexing this side great. So that tells me that the tension in his neck that's causing his head to be way up in the air was on the other side, or on this side, but from the other side, if that makes sense. So did that offside lateral flexion. His head's back to nice and loose. Shakes off right there. That's releasing tension. Good boy. And see, he just looks very present right now, right? Hi. Yeah. You're very present right now. Good. He's very aware of what's going on. And this is where he kind of tends to spin himself up a little bit. He heard a sound over there. He's like, oh my gosh. But not too bad. Grand scheme of things, that's pretty good. Oh, yeah. Good boy. And I'm not going to stay up there too long right now because what I'm feeling when I'm on him right there is not that he wants to be bad. I don't feel that he wants to be bad at all. But I feel that he doesn't know the right answer. And I feel like if I sat on his back for very long, he would start to look for a different answer than standing still. And it might be quite a while before he got back to standing still, if that makes sense. He would start to walk a little bit and then work himself up and get more and more nervous. See how big his eyes are right now? His head's up in the air. I mean, I can see a big white of his eyes. He's like, oh my gosh. So just that little bit just kind of causes him to kind of freak out. So I'm just trying to do just a little bit, just only what he can handle, and then get off and let him come back to relaxed. And then I can do a little bit more, but only what he can handle, and then let him come back to being relaxed. Good boy. He's learning so much and so quick. I just love how relaxed and engaged he is. He just needs to learn that he doesn't have to work himself up and figure out what us humans are asking of him, because I really don't think he got a very good start in life from previous owners, not the current owner. And, I think the humans that had him at that point taught him to do, inadvertently, accidentally taught him to do some things that probably we don't want, and put him in a mindset that we don't want him in. And so it's just going to take him some time to figure out how to stay in the mindset that we want him in. Good boy. Beautiful. Good boy. I'm going to test this offside lateral flexion again. It's not very good. It's better than it was before, though. Hey, that was actually not terrible. Good. He thought through that. I'm going to switch gears here for a second and do something totally different. So I'm going to toss this rope over his head. This is a whole series of things I'm going to do, but he doesn't care about this too much, so that's good. All right, good. That's actually really good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss this rope. This might be a little short, but I think I can make it work. I'm going to toss this rope over his butt and ask him to do this. Now, this is a pretty common exercise. I'll bet he's done this quite a bit before. Your average cowboy is going to do this. But the reason I'm doing this is that offside lateral flexion wasn't working great. Okay. And so I want to make sure that he can give that pressure. Now, did you see when that rope came kind of tight around his hocks? He wasn't super happy about that. So that's a place that I'm probably going to work out some tension. So I'm going to come on up here and start tossing this rope around these hocks, and he flinches a little bit there. Good. Now he's not flinching so much. Any place on his body that I can find that he flinches or is a little nervous about, I want to work on and get all that stuff out of there. Whether that's his face, whether that's his butt, legs, belly, flank. Don't ignore the flank. I think I've got a few videos of this dude working with that flank rope a little bit. Much better. He's feeling that rope, not too worried about it, and figures out how to get out of that. Good. Much better. All right. All right, back to what we were working on a second ago. I want to go ahead and, all right. So if he moves when I come up there, I might just need to work on approaching here and letting him know, hey, you don't need to go anywhere. Good. Lateral flexion on this side. Good. Good. He's a lot more prone to moving on this side. So I probably need to do more work on this side than the other. I'm not going to do anything different, but I just probably need to spend more time over here. But I love how relaxed he is, how low his head is right now. He's being pretty good for me, so. Good. He got a little surprised by that. I don't think he thought I was going to do that, but you know what I love? He didn't move a foot. He didn't go anywhere. He was just like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, but, things happen in life I wasn't expecting. No big deal. See him actually looking at his side like, is something still up there? But I love how aware he is. He's actually engaging with things. Good. Oh, not bad. Not bad. All right. Once again, I just want him like, what is that crazy guy doing? Expect the unexpected. Good boy. That's great. I felt like he kind of walked into my space, so I just took the opportunity to put him back to work. And I want to do quite a bit of moving in between getting on his back. Because again, it's just, I want him expecting to go do something as I'm getting on his back. That way, when the first time I get on his back and I do ask him to go do something, he's not so stuck and, he blows up and stuff. Good. Want every experience he has with a person on his back, at least from this point forward. So I can't control what happened in the past, potentially. I don't know if anything bad happened. I'm assuming it probably did. But I want every interaction with him from this point forward to be good. And if I sit on his back when he's in a scared mental state and he ends up having to run around because he's scared, he wouldn't be doing anything particularly wrong. If you're so scared that you feel the need to run, I can't get mad at you for that. But it wouldn't be a very good interaction because I'm probably going to have to pull him around and bend him into the ground and disengage his hind end a bunch and do all this stuff. And why do all that instead of just getting his mind into the right mental state? So here I'm actually not asking for a disengage. I'm asking him to back over this back hock and step backwards. This, I think I did the video on this the other day. This is that cow turn that he needs to be able to do. And it's different from the disengage. There, good. He just stepped over that. Now go this way, please. Good. This exercise is really good about getting them to sink down in their hind end and bend their hocks and get springy instead of being real sticky and stuffed in the hind end. So when I pull here, I want him to rock back. Right there, that was beautiful. Now I'll go ahead and send him this way. Good. So if you watch it back, watch his right hind leg. Instead of coming under, it steps way back. He gets out of his way so he can come through. Keep going, dude. There you go. I know it looked like I told you to stop. I love how now, even when he's on this side where he's going towards the gate, I'm able to just put my arm out and ask him to trot, and it stays on a loose rein, or in this case, a loose lead rope, and he doesn't drag me to the gate. Now, there's still a slight difference in the circle. I don't know if you can see it, but I can definitely feel it. He pushes the circle on this side, and he pulls the circle a little on that side, but it's so much better than it was those first couple weeks that he was here. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to do a little more of this jumping on his back. Now I'm more comfortable on that side of him. He is more comfortable with me on that side of him. So I'm on this side of him. I'm gonna do a little lateral flexion here. This horse is gonna be so cool when we get done with him. But we gotta take our time to do him right. Good boy. Good boy. There you go. So he was soft in that lateral flexion, but then he took his head away really fast. And so that's why I picked up on that lateral flexion again. He has a bit of a tendency to block me out on this side, not during the flexion, but after the flexion. Whenever his head is straight, he has a tendency just to kind of ignore anything that's happening on this side. And that's not something we want. I'm gonna do some offside lateral flexion. Just a teaching tip here. Notice that when I do this offside lateral flexion, I used to, what did I used to do? I used to put the rope like this, okay, with it over their back. And this is kind of a good thing because it acts like reins, right? This side's not attached to anything. But when I do lateral flexion here, he's gonna be good about it. But if he was not good about it, if I had a horse that pulled against that and started spinning and stuff, I would not be able to just drop the lead rope and go back to normal, because if I drop the lead rope, it's like this, right? So the way I do this lateral flexion now is pick it up underneath here and hold the tail underneath his neck. Now hold that tail nice and loose so that it doesn't affect your lateral flexion any. For him, the feel is exactly the same, but if he starts pulling away or doing something crazy and spinning, I gotta just let go and maintain possession of him, I can drop that and I've still got him right here like normal. So just a little pro tip there. I kind of learned that when I was doing this outdoors before I had this building built, and I don't have a fence on the outdoor. And I don't think I've ever lost a horse actually doing it the other way, but I definitely came close. So, all right, I love where his mental state is right now. Good boy. And I just feel really good about where he's at right now. Good job. Oh, good. Man, I might just be done on that. That was outstanding right there. For that on the right side, sitting on his back, which I was a little nervous about. Again, not that he would do anything mean or intentional bad, just that he might forget what good is and start walking around and then spin himself up, and then all of a sudden it becomes crazy. So for him to keep himself under control that well and just not worry about what I was doing, man, I really, really like what we did right there. So, all right. Thanks for watching.